Welcome to the I Fired My Boss franchise podcast. My name is Dan Claps, founder and CEO of Franchise Playbook, a franchisor platform where we create, own, and operate dynamic franchise brands in the mobile services space. And my life's goal is to help people just like you fire their boss and become a business owner. Welcome everyone to this webinar, or really it's a fireside chat on franchise ownership. I'd really like to make these webinars something that people won't be able to really find on the internet, or like the general public isn't going to know just by reading something or going to YouTube. So I really want this webinar to be, if there's one thing you could get from the webinar, like the one reason to be here, that if you said, okay, at the end of this, Dan didn't waste my time, I got this one thing, was the realities of business ownership, franchise ownership, and how important picking the right brand is. Okay. And so one of the things I like to say is that franchising takes out the guesswork in business ownership. It doesn't take out the work. Right? It doesn't take out the work you have to do. It just takes out the guessing part. You still have to execute on the plan, right? And so we're going to cover that today. And just a couple quick things. If you don't know me, I'm Dan. A little bit about me. From New Jersey originally, live in New York City. I'm the CEO of a very large franchise organization called Voda Cleaning Restoration. We're in about 270 territories now in 32 states around the country. And I'm the owner and CEO of Franchise Playbook, which is the company that owns Voda. And we're a platform right now with one brand, but we're expanding into other home service brands in the future. Entire career in franchising since 2014. I'm a certified franchise executive. I was ranked the top 100 influencers in franchising for the past 3 years in a row, and the past 2 years in a row, top 50. So very, very experienced in franchising. I sit as a member of the International Franchise Association, where I'm a major contributor. And before that, before all those things, I used to be in the franchise consulting business. So I've worked with hundreds of franchise brands. I've worked with thousands and thousands of people that have bought franchises either through me directly or indirectly. I've actually helped just over 1,000 people become a franchise owner. And so very well versed. I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. And again, my goal today is to share with you things that I know. Now, a couple of things I want to also highlight. One, I bought that Christmas tree a little too early. It's starting to die. It looks a little droopy. I see it's behind me there. I didn't realize that. And then number two, I'm using slides from a franchise webinar that we did recently for franchisors, where we coach franchisors how to be better franchisors. So that's why you see this name of this title. But the slides are very applicable to what I want to teach today on what to know about franchise before you really explore them. So all right, without further ado, I am going to really, when you're becoming a franchise owner and you're picking a brand, one of the most important things to understand is that when you're buying a franchise, you're buying systems, you're buying into a brand, and you're buying into people, right? The people that make those systems, the people that make the support of the franchise. And then secondarily, you're buying into the brand, right? And a brand doesn't mean everyone knows the brand, but a brand is something that turns heads. It gets people excited when they see it, right? I always like to use, McDonald's as a great example. In the 50s, when they first launched McDonald's or whatever it was, people didn't all know McDonald's, but when they saw the golden arches, it turned their heads. They'd go in the drive-thru, they'd have a great experience, they'd tell their friends, right? A great franchise brand doesn't have to mean everyone knows it, but the branding is designed in a way where people resonate with it. But the most important thing is you're really buying into a team. And so to me, when you're looking at a franchise, most important person you're investing into is the founder, the CEO of the brand, whether it's a gym franchise, food, whatever it is, right? Is this founder someone that employs kind of this true leadership mentality, which is they have a clear vision that they're able to communicate with you in a clear, concise way, and you feel bought into it? Does it seem like they're working on a mission and not just working to, make a buck? Is there a strong culture within the organization that has that CEO, instilled that within the franchise? Because remember, that culture is going to carry from the leadership team to the corporate team, home office team of the franchise, down to the franchise owners and their teams. Like at the end of the day, the culture is set by the leader. And something interesting is, I don't care if you ever see or hear from that CEO, they are setting the direction. Okay, I'm very active in Voda. Okay, if I wasn't, I'm still the decider of culture. At the end of the day, doesn't matter how much time someone spends in the business. It matters who has the control over the business. If private equity owns a business and they spend a quarter, but they make the decision, they control the culture. Culture is controlled by the controller of the business. I don't care what anyone says, that is the reality of culture. And so is the culture there something that you want to invest into? And really, is the leader someone that you feel that the culture is going to carry that way? And then most importantly, you can't just buy a franchise because you like the CEO or the leader. What does the executive leadership team at the franchise look like? Was there a robust team? Is there a leader for sales, marketing, ops, finance, and legal? Where you find that is in an FDD, franchise disclosure document, which is the item 2 of a franchise agreement where all the executives are listed. We're going to break that down a little bit later, but it's so important that you look toward the leadership team of the franchise brand you're exploring. And really, like this says the core buckets you must lead as a CEO, but the core buckets that this CEO you're looking at and this franchise executive team needs to have is they need to have a leader with experience in operations, systems, manuals, playbooks. Are there training videos that you can learn how to run the business and playbooks on how to do all the different things you're going to need to know, whether it's a gym, a haircut place, or a restoration franchise. Number 2, you're going to need to see that is the franchise development process. I mean, when you're exploring the franchise, is it dialed in? Are they listening to you? Are they treating you just like another number, or are they treating you like a human? How you do anything is how you do everything. In my opinion, is if you're going to buy a franchise that's going to teach you how to build a sales and marketing machine, and training machine, they're going to train you. They can't communicate the franchise offering to you in a clear, concise way. How can they do the other things, right? And so you want to see a brand that has a strong franchise development process, but not pressure, just one that is strong and clear. For me, not to toot our own horn, but in Voda, our fran dev process kind of goes a little bit like this. Here's what's exciting about our brand. Here's all the things you aren't going to like. Here's the negatives of the business. And the best people we get, they know all of that. And that's fine. We want that. I joke in Voda, we talk people out of Voda as much as into it because we don't want anyone to get into this and not like it. Like, what does that do for us? Right? We make our money on royalties. We make our money on success. The third thing you want to look at, and I think the most important, I'd argue you could have half-baked operations if you have leads, right? I'd rather have sales and figure everything else out than great operations and no leads, no sales, right? So marketing is number 3 on here, right? I think it's the most important thing to look at. And when I say the most important thing, there's 5 things, right, within these buckets. And let me explain that. Number 1 is marketing. How are you going to get customers, and how is the franchisor going to help you in doing that, right? Number 2 is how are you going to get employees to service those customers, and how's the franchisor going to help you in doing that? Number 3 is there's already going to be that gym franchise or food or haircut or home service business in your market, most likely. And that's fine. But what is the unique selling proposition to the consumer? How is your brand going to stand out to the consumer in your market, in your town? 4 is the numbers, the finance, right? Are the numbers, something you want to do, that make sense, that you want to do the business, the return, and, financial EBITDA, profit, etc. And then finally, the day in the life. Does the day in the life of an owner in that franchise match what you like doing and that you're good at, right? Let's say the franchise wants people to be the mayor of the town out there networking. Is that something you like to do and you enjoy doing? If that's what owners do all day, make sure that that's something you want to do. Or maybe there's a different brand with a different day in the life. So when you're looking at a franchise, you really want to be looking at is there an onboarding manager, right? If they have a lot of franchisees, is there someone dedicated to onboarding me when I buy a franchise? Are there coaches dedicated to me after I onboard and I go to training that are going to work with me hand in hand weekly or biweekly or monthly to coach me? Do I have a business coach within my system? And by the way, while I'm going through this, the chat box is available. Please put in there questions you have, questions about franchises, concerns. If you're looking at Voda, share what you like about it, or questions. If you're looking at other brands, maybe give us some ideas of what you're looking at. I'd love to give some advice and feedback. If you're part of a franchise, what's working and what's not, anything that you can put in the chat, I'll make sure to answer that as we go through this webinar. So really, as I said earlier, these are the 5 questions you really need to solve as a franchise or researcher, and that the founder of the franchise or the leadership team of the franchise needs to show that they've proven out. How are we going to get how are we going to get customers, right? How are you going to get employees? And how's the franchisor going to help you with those 2 things? What's the unique selling proposition in the market? what are the numbers day to day, right? What's the first year look like, the second year, the average unit volume, the unit economics, what does year 3, 4, 5 look like if you can get that data? What does the industry data look like? What's the growth of the industry? There's so many things that you can start to ask. And what does the day in the life look like? Now, for number 4, what are the numbers? You can only get so much out of an FDD, item 19. And by the way, if a franchise does not have an item 19, we're going to talk about this in a moment about FDDs, but if they don't have that, I caution you. That's like trying to buy a car without a mileage odometer. You need to be able to see numbers. But FDDs only take you so far. The best way to get the numbers is talk to franchise owners. You want to get on validation, which is a stage in the process. When Steve Miller, our VP, Chief Development Officer, joins, he'll walk you through what a good franchise discovery process should look like. But these are all the things you want to be thinking about. What are the numbers? When did the franchise owner hit break even? When you get on validation and you're talking to franchise owners, ask them, would you do this again? Would you do this franchise again? Right? Seriously. Or are you getting the support from the franchisor? How so? How not? A good one you want to ask for is the franchisor responsive to feedback? No, I want to be clear. None of these franchises you look at, I don't care if it's 1,000 location or 100 location or 2 locations, none of them are perfect. They shouldn't be, right? It's a never-ending evolving is a business evolution, right? But what you do want to hear is these are the problems that the franchise system's identified and the franchisor is listening and working to solve them. Not everything has to be perfect, but are they solving them at a reasonable pace? And are they solving the things that the franchise owners want them to solve? I know for me as a leader of Voda, I always think that I know what is going to help our franchise system. But guess what? I don't. I like to think I do, but I don't. But what I do know is that I can find the answer, which is by talking to franchise owners and listening from a lens of the franchise owners. What is the one thing that the vast majority of our system is struggling with that's actually going to move the needle in their business? I don't need to decide that. My system decides that. It's up to me to figure out how to get it done and when to get it done, which one to do. But as a good franchisor, if you're looking at something, you should ask, are the franchisees' feedback, is it receptive at corporate? That's super, super important. So reporting from the jump, I think best franchise brands you're looking at, they should have great reporting. You should be able to see the average ticket, the conversion rate, the average job type, the commercial to residential breakdown, things like this. That's in what's called item 19 of the FDD, which again, we're going to get into for those that are a little bit more junior to franchising. Okay, next I'm going to move on to operations. So that was kind of general. Now I'm going to go into operations where our COO usually talks about. So when you're looking at a franchise, there's a lot, but you want to be looking at, again, I'm giving you stuff no one's going to give you. Vendor support, okay? Does this franchise have key relationships with vendors of all the different areas of your business that you're going to need? And do they have assistance with getting licensing, compliance? Do they have streamlined systems for setting up your professional business infrastructure? And by the way, do they have economies of scale? Can you buy certain things through them that's cheaper than on the open market because you're part of a franchise system, or able to have access to things that others are not able to as a part of the franchise system? Number 2, maybe there's proprietary tech or some type of cleaning solution, etc., whatever the business is. Number 2 is industry support. Do you have access to preferred product vendors and negotiated discounts, as I was just mentioning? Are there national master service agreements to open doors with key clients? Does the franchise have opportunities for training, collaboration, and vendor-led education? During the onboarding, like I said, is there an onboarding specialist? And is there a structured onboarding process? Not just, we'll figure it out, we'll wing it. No. Is there a structured process to onboarding and formal introductions to key players and resources? And then most importantly, checkpoints or accountability checkpoints during the operational time, right? And so you want to be looking at, again, in the Fran Dev process, how you do anything is how you do everything. That should be nice and smooth. The onboarding process should be the same thing. It's a process that they follow. Does the franchisor do that? Then you want to be looking at training, right? Is the training comprehensive? Is it hands-on? Is it more than just the first week of university? Does it continue on after you train? Be wary. Some franchises, they'll train you and they'll say, okay, see you at the next conference next year. Make sure you pay the royalties. No, that's unacceptable. It's not enough. The bar is a lot higher now in franchising, right? What are they doing to train you ongoing? Weekly, monthly, daily, conferences, etc. How are they training beyond just the initial training? Is there a department specifically related to training across all the operational functions? And there's practical exercises to reinforce foundational skills, right? We don't want to just be learning. We want to be tested and be able to pass courses, especially as you hire employees. Next is you want to be thinking about What does this 0 to 6 month ramp look like? And then what does ongoing support look like? From a technology perspective, and again, I'm going deep here. I'm going to go wider again in a moment, but from a technology perspective, you need a learning management system. Like, is there a way to learn virtually how to run this business? Are there internal communications from the franchise? Is the franchisor communicating enough with the franchisees and their teams? You're going to find that out in validation. Do they have an internal CRM? Do they have an internal call center? Do they have industry-specific technology figured out? Do they have dashboards for KPIs? A good franchisor should have all of this or most of this figured out. And so the formula for success as you're looking at a franchise is there's an aligned franchise development team that does things in a specific process. They don't pressure you, but they communicate well. Number two, is there a structured onboarding experience? Is there a defined ramp framework with deliverables to ramp the business? Is there strategic personalized growth coaching and mutual success and sustainable growth within the culture? These are the things you want to think about. Now, on the marketing side, to get deep again, you got to be thinking, if you didn't do a franchise, you need to be thinking about social media, listings, reviews, getting listing reviews or reviews that are bad off your Google My Business. You're going to be thinking about your Google My Business page. You got to think about your digital advertising strategy, your branding, right? Your brand archetype and persona, brand guidelines, colors, fonts, websites, right? This is all if you didn't have a franchise. You got to think about lead nurturing, automations, email marketing, email domains, an email address, a CRM system, community outreach, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, all the different social media platforms, email, SMS marketing, networking, referral programs. How do you go out there and network? How do you get relationships? What are the playbooks? You have to have a website, SEO, search engine optimization. That's a lot of stuff. And I just did the first 10%, right? Brand awareness, engagement, leads, and loyalty. No, when you're part of a franchise, it should be the opposite, that you don't have to think about all those things and you could just execute. And so franchising, as I said, number one, most important, I would take sloppy operations and a great lead gen funnel over great lead gen, great operations and no way to get customers and leads. So the marketing leader is pivotal in the franchise. Christian, I know you're on here. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but any interest in kind of touching on this? You're our CMO. I could use a little voice break, but again, I'm kind of putting you on the spot. I just saw you here, so.
Yeah, absolutely. I love talking about marketing and could talk about it all day long. Yeah, when you're looking at a franchise, I think there's a couple things, and Dan touched on kind of some of the key topics. I mean, one of the biggest things you're investing in is a brand. So, what type of infrastructure did the franchisor put in place to not only make the brand engaging in the hearts and minds of your customers, but it's planned for creating more brand equity for you. So you're obviously, thinking about your territories and your markets where you're going to operate, and the brand that you bring to life is important. But the franchisor's job is to create that brand and make it bigger and bigger across the nation. That makes you more appealing to your customers as you grow your empire locally, and the franchisor becomes a household name, hopefully, from coast to coast. And so, thinking about the things around brand, also the infrastructure around the technology that's in place to help you support you on the marketing front. So one of the biggest things is do all the systems talk to each other? So when you get a lead from countless number of sources, Google, Facebook, Instagram, all the other places online, how is that ingested into a centralized call center database and then into a CRM so that you can engage with those customers? And what type of marketing automations in place to help you do that seamlessly, either manually or even better in an automated way. And so the last thing I want to touch on is kind of the dashboards. How is the franchisor giving you tools to really see the performance of the marketing investments you're making? In any franchisor or any franchise that you run, you're going to be spending on marketing monthly, and so you're going to want to know where the value is coming from those investments. So asking them what type of dashboards for Voda, we actually built something called the Voda Marketing Hub that takes all those very fragmented kind of walled gardens of data. Google doesn't talk to Meta, Meta doesn't talk to Angie or Thumbtack, and so we brought all of those into a centralized place so our owners can see very definitively how much did you spend? How many leads did you get? How many jobs were produced? What revenue did those jobs bring in your organization? And most importantly, what was your customer acquisition cost and your ROI? And so we built that as a custom solution, but ask the franchise brand that you're considering what types of tools and guidance and consultation they're going to give you to make sure your marketing is running and you're not just spending dollars into the ether. So that's kind of
Yeah.
what I have.
Yeah, great points, Christian. Great points. So this is the key is looking at the marketing. So let's go to the next slide here. So on the finance side, I want you to think about this is the Voda flywheel, but this applies to any franchise that you're looking at. You want to be thinking about again the onboarding, launching franchisees phase, right? How are you going to learn the system? How's the franchisor going to teach you the system? What are the early adoption and best practices that other franchise owners have deployed to be successful? What is to support revenue growth, right? How do they optimize the marketing spend as you scale, right? Marketing should get better and more efficient. Your return on marketing investment should get better as you invest money into these platforms. And what is the perfect sales process? And then how do you perfect the perfect sales process? And how is the franchisor and other franchise owners going to help you do that? So often I see when people buy a franchise and they get into a business, it doesn't have to be a franchise. They're like, the leads aren't good. I can almost promise you there's only so many ways to generate leads. Facebook, Google, Angie, Thumbtack, LinkedIn, LSA. There's always so many ways. There's actually only 4 ways. I'm going to talk about that. But guarantee it's not the leads, it's the sales process, almost always. Almost always. And so let's touch on that for a second. There's only 4 ways to grow a business. And there's only 4 ways to generate leads. I don't care if it's 10 years from now, 10 years ago, right now, or 1,000 years ago when we were selling, I don't know, stones. I don't know. Doesn't matter. It's always been the same. The 4 ways to grow a business. Number 1, get more customers, whether that means increasing the conversion of the leads that you're getting or just getting more leads and getting them as customers. Number 2 is increasing your average ticket on a customer, meaning that your customer spends more money with you when they buy something. Number 3, and also a way to do that, is selling new things, other things to the customers that you already have. Right? It's 5 times more expensive to get a new customer than it is to sell something a customer already have. And number 4, you can cut costs. There's only so much you can do there to make money and save money in a business. So really it comes down to more leads, better conversion, more customers. Number 2, higher price per customer, higher average ticket per customer. And number 3, cross-selling things to customers. And so how do you get customers? There's only 4 ways. Number 1, there's one-to-one warm outreach. So whether you're in a gym, a restaurant, maybe not a restaurant, but like a gym, home services, things like this, business, a lawyer, a doctor, a dentist, right? One of the ways you get business is one-to-one warm outreach, meaning you go to a business networking meeting or Rotary Club or some sort of event socially, you meet someone, they like you, they give you their business. Or you meet someone, they like you, they have a friend that needs your business and they refer you, right? That's a one-to-one warm referral, right? That's your networking. Everybody's got to do it in business, right? Your network is your net worth. That's a big part of your business. The second way to generate leads is one-to-many warm outreach. That's when you go on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn and you post about yourself and you post about what you provide, the services. Let's use the lawyer again. Lawyer posts, hey, I just want a case for my client. And friends of theirs or friends of theirs sees it, needs their services, or has a friend that needs their services and refers them. That's one-to-many warm outreach, posting to your own social media channels. Then there's one-to-one cold outreach, number 3. One-to-one cold outreach is a direct mail campaign, a cold calling campaign, direct Instagram messages or LinkedIn messages, right? Direct, one-to-one, but cold, right? You don't know the person. You send them a letter, for example. And then finally, there's one-to-many cold. That's Facebook ads, local service ads, Angie ads, anything where you're doing paid media. You're advertising to a cold audience, but to many at one time. So only 4 ways. So at one point, you should have an automated marketing machine for number 4 that you spend money on, you get a return on, or we call it a ROAS, return on ad spend, or a customer acquisition cost of X and a lifetime value of Y. And that's only, you can only scale that so much, right? You can only spend so much on that. And then you want to increase your conversion rate by improving your sales process. Outside of that, you could do more direct mail, more cold emails, more of that. You can post on social media. and then you go out there and network and be the mayor of town. Those are the four ways to grow a business. I don't care if you're a $1 billion company or $100,000 company. All right, let's pause there. We're 30 minutes in. We're going until 12:30, but I'll also stay till 1 if people keep asking questions later. But Steve, if you're available, I can also come back to you. But one of the things that I was thinking we should do is whatever you want to do, maybe what a good Fran Dev process looks like, and then also like the FDD. What is you know, how to understand an FDD? If some of the people on here I think are looking at Voda, some are looking at nothing. This is brand new. Some are looking at other franchises. Some on here are already franchise owners. So kind of a eclectic audience.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Dan. I appreciate it. I think, some of the things I think is if you're looking to buy a franchise, right, you are going to look for a process, a defined process, right? So you're buying into a system. And I think if I was a candidate, prior to that investigative stage, if there wasn't a system in place for me to buy a franchise, I would probably think, okay, what does it look like after I pay the franchise fee and actually commit to the franchise? What does the system look like? And I mentioned, as Dan mentioned before, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So I think, for us, we make it a very transparent and seamless so you know where you're going. And it's a systematic, incremental exploration process from introduction call to meeting our team. So I think if I'm looking at an opportunity, that's something I would really focus on is that standardized process for them. And then also, if I'm looking at item 19, they can be very intimidating if you're new to franchising. So there's a lot of different sections there. So for example, in our process, early on, we focus on things to ensure that it's potentially initial fit. And I always tell people for the second call during our unit economics review, I'm going to ensure that this potentially makes sense for you from a high level and give you enough value to want to continue forward. So we look at it as, okay, what does a territory size look like in perspective to other opportunities out there? What's the upfront investment for the franchise fee? The second thing we focus on is, okay, what am I buying into? So when you look at, and I'll share with the group here, it's our item 7. So every franchise has an item 7, which is going to go through the actual investment range. So really what you're looking at here is you're trying to make sure that, what you're being given by the franchisor, one, you're going to want to validate that they're effective, right? Whether it's marketing, the systems, the call center, things like that to support you, but also what's the cost associated with it? Can I get it cheaper on my own as an individual owner than through a franchise system? That shouldn't be the case due to the buying power of a franchise organization. But what am I buying into from a support structure, and what am I buying into from an infrastructure standpoint? So for us, you're buying into the franchise fee, the training, the support, and then things, QuickBooks, bookkeeping, a CRM system, a technology to quote out restoration work, inventory, advertising expenses, a vehicle, equipment, labor, working capital. So those are all things that you're going to want to look through the item 7. Obviously, I always relate to this. You want to make sure it's something that you feel you can afford initially. And then also, okay, if I'm paying X, how quickly can I reach that point to start to cash flow, start to recruit my investment? And you'll learn that through the item 19 or in conjunction with franchisee validation. So another thing you're going to want to, understand is the item 19 and understanding the potential revenue opportunity. There's going to be franchisees also listed in the FDD document that you can go through and reach out to. And I always tell people the beauty of franchising is you have the ability to partner with a franchisor through the franchise agreement, but you also can validate that partnership through other people that have already validated, right? So that's an opportunity where you can speak to open and operating franchisees that are in the system, and maybe you can see their numbers, but you also want to validate, okay, how is the marketing? How is the support? You're X, Y, in. Would you do it again? And every franchise has to list the franchisees in their system, and they also should be directed to you throughout the time as well. So I think that should also be an integral thing. I think the FDD is a great starting point. You should understand the nuances, but I think it's also important to incrementally go through that document to not be overwhelmed, and also not focus on the things that maybe don't matter, right? You want to figure out my initial investment, and then what does the financial upside look like, and that's why early on we focus on those two sections. But there's a lot of different various sections to go through. You can also get a background on the leadership team. How many transfers, how many closures do they have? Ask the franchisor why they had that. What are the things they're looking for? So I think the combination of discovery process being defined and being able to get you the information you need to make a decision, as well as seeing some hard tangible numbers. And the FDD is to protect you as a consumer. So that's an audited document that we disclose every year, but that also gives you a number standpoint to look at in conjunction, with that discovery process through the franchisor.
Yeah, we got a live audience. What makes you the top restoration franchise? Great question. I mean, obviously subjective, right? We feel that way. I don't know if that's a true ranking. I do think we won actually some type of award recently in Entrepreneur Magazine. But to me, as far as a restoration franchise, as a couple things. So number one, I think that there's a reason why we've gone from 0 franchise owners in 2023 to 107 franchise owners in 2025 in such a short period of time. And there's a couple reasons for that. Number one, the unit economics of the business, meaning the actual numbers. Who cares about anything else but numbers? Our average owner, when you look at the FDD or the item 19, the top 50% do 687,000 their first year. The top 20% do 800,000 their first year. The top producers do $1 million their first year. It's all in the item 19. I didn't do $1 million in business for maybe 5 years before I ever saw, more than maybe a couple $100,000 my first year. But our top 50% at 687 their first year with their first business often. So it's the number. So how do we get those numbers? Really, at the end of the day, there's not some special way to extract water out of someone's house. They don't care if you have some special water extractor. What they care about is when they go to Google and they have water in their house, that someone shows up, when they call the number, that they answer, and that they show up and do a great job. And so what I always tell people in our business, not to oversimplify it, but we're, at the end of the day, a sales and marketing business that happens to sell restoration. When a lead comes in, we're going to sell the job, provide an exceptional service, get a 5-star review, ask for referrals, repeat, and try to have more money come in the business that month than out, right? That's the business. What makes us unique, though, as a franchise is not just restoration. We do all the lead gen on the digital side. We have a call center open 24/7, but because we're 2 franchises in one, where we have the cleaning side of the business as well, where we can clean floors, carpets, tile and grout, upholstery, everything else. This is awesome because this is not just one franchise. It's 2 franchises in one, 2 revenue streams in one. Cleaning jobs lead to restoration jobs lead to cleaning jobs, right? And so it's this nice diverse mix where you can go to a property manager on the B2B side and say, I can extract your water whenever you have an emergency, like every other restoration franchise. But the difference between us is we can say, look, but in between then, let me come and clean your floors, right? We do this a lot of time for gyms. We'll extract the water out of your business if you have an issue, but let's clean the floors. If you had a business and someone was in your office every couple of weeks or months cleaning the floors, and then you had a water event, or someone just once in a while stops by and says, I'm here for you if you have a water event, which one are you probably going to go with? The one that you're building a relationship with, right? And that's something that makes us very unique with the ability to get in the door through the cleaning and the restoration side of the business. I don't know if Steve or Christian, would you like to add some additional color to that question?
Yeah, I think we be transparently tooting our own horn to say we're the top restoration franchise at this time. I think if you look at a franchise in a similar timeline of us, I think there's a lot of things that we uniquely differentiate for those individuals, in the marketplace. And kind of wrapping up on some of Dan's points, I think the things that we're building here early on, again, our goal is to be the top restoration franchise. I think that takes time to get to that point, but I think as you're a candidate, you're not going to be able to go out and buy a Servpro or Paul Davis as a new territory without acquisition, which comes with additional cost structure. So for us, I think if you're looking at us versus other, franchises that are, younger, maybe emerging restoration franchises, I think there's a lot of things we do uniquely, and I think we have a great value proposition versus those individuals. But again, this is a $300 billion space. There's companies that do $6 billion in revenue. So, for me, I could argue that, if, with the revenue that we do related to that and a 50-year-old company, it's a little bit hard to say we're the best. But I think from the standpoint of if you're evaluating opportunities and you're evaluating some of the more younger brands in an open territory to really drive home some of those points that Dan from from the branding, from the marketing support, from the hiring support, from the dual model. There's a lot of things that we do uniquely different.
Yeah, again, I think, I completely resonate with what Steve said. Again, our feeling to be in the top, it's subjective. So, one of the best things you can do to learn about our brand is we have a candidate portal that has like 60 or 70 hours worth of content. We could share that here. Also, our website tells you a lot about Voda as well. Or if you're more interested, you can always schedule a one-to-one call to learn about our business and for us to learn about you. The other question from Andrea was, what makes you different from JanPro franchise? So, great question. I don't know as much about JanPro, but to my understanding, they're more of a commercial cleaning or like a facilities management cleaning franchise. To my understanding, I don't think they're a restoration company. So what we do is water restoration. So if a home has a water event or a fire or smoke, or if a business has that, we go and we take care of that. And then we clean floors, carpets, tile and grout, upholstery in homes and in businesses. So I think that's the major difference as far as the industry itself. I don't know enough about JanPro to comment, but what I can tell you is I do know it's known to be a pretty good franchise. So if you're looking at them and something like us, I think you're looking at great options. Anything in the B2B commercial cleaning is like there's another great brand, Citywide. We have a partnership with them where we refer each other business. That's a great franchise. I mean, they do like I don't know their admin team, but really good. Citywide's great. JanPro's great. There's a few. Jan Ties America, Janny King. Those are all that's not what we do, but those are all great, commercial franchises. The only thing to keep in mind with the B2B is there's a lot less levers to pull on the digital side. Like it's very difficult to generate B2B leads on Facebook or Google or anything. And so you're really gonna have to go out there and be like more of a sales rep than in consumer B2C, if that makes sense. I also put our podcast here at the top of the chat where we talk a lot about different franchises. I want to kind of rapid fire some things to think about too. Keep putting your questions in there. That's great. It gives us kind of bullet points to work off of or armor to work off. But a couple things I want to tell you. So been in franchising 12 years. Be leery of a brand that isn't growing. If they can't find franchise owners, there's a reason usually, or it doesn't really matter because if they're not growing, they're not going to have royalties to support you. On the other end, be leery of a brand that grows too quick. Now, I say that leading a company that's grown quick. I truly believe when you look at the amount of support that we have at Voda between the 23 people at corporate, the amount of capital we have in the business and had going into the business and the experience of my team, it's a little bit different for us. But there are brands, we're also not in brick and mortar, but there's been a lot of times, mostly in brick and mortar, where a franchise grows really fast. People buy the franchise. It takes 9 months to get a lease and open up a brick and mortar location, and the franchisor has to support all those people before they ever see any revenue from royalties. And so be careful of, especially in brick and mortar, a brand growing too quick. Another thing to keep in mind, a lot of brands, you might like the founder, you might like the leadership team. Are they going to sell to PE in a short period of time? Now, there's nothing wrong with selling to PE, but if you bought into some culture that you love and then it changes, that's something to think about as well. Other things I've seen in franchising, item 19. Okay, be leery of the item 19. A lot of brands, if they're an emerging brand, will tell you about an item 19. They'll say, we have an average of $2 million and a 20% profit. The item 19 is the only number for many years when you emerge in a brand. Our item 19, when we first started, was the same thing. Now it's many locations. And that's just a thing in franchising. Just be careful. Like, is it an average of $2 million or is that what the corporate store is doing? And there's nothing wrong with that, right? But what are the other owners doing their first year? What are the first year numbers? I call it AOV, average owner volume, right? Or FOV, FOV, I don't know, first year owner volume, right? What are they doing their first year, their second year, when they hit break even? What's the average ticket? What's the actual investment in the item 7? That's another one. A lot of brands, I don't think on purpose. I don't think anything's done on purpose, just things to be leery of. Well, put an item 7 and then the item 7 investment, meaning this investment's from this amount to this amount, is way lower than what it actually is, right? They didn't think of all the things. So make sure you're really going into a franchise well capitalized. Ask a few owners, what was your investment, right? And different situations. Another thing to think about, brands validation. When you do validation, I just mentioned how important it is to do it, but make sure it's validation, not education. Learn about the brand from the franchise development team. That validation should be more about getting on calls, talking to franchise owners and learning, kind of validating what you learn, not trying to educate yourself on the brand. That way you can ask more powerful questions. Those 5 things I mentioned, how are you going to get customers? How's the franchisor going to help you? How are you going to get employees, and how's the franchisor going to help you? What's the unique selling proposition? What are the numbers, and what are the day in the life? The day in the life is key, right? At the end of the day, you're going to be doing this for 10, 15, 20 years, whatever you're going to do. Do you like the day in the life of an owner? Is it what you want to be doing? Because if it's not, you're going to be pretty miserable, right? And I'm usually a firm believer that we like what we're good at. So like, is the what you're good at what you need to do all day long in that business? Because you're not going to like it if you're not very good at it, right? And so, are you good at it, and do you like it, and is that what you want to be doing day to day? Every franchise is different. You want to be in a gym, it's open early. You want to be in food, it's open all the time. You want to be in B2B, it's great because it's Monday through Friday. But what are the negatives to that, right? And there's a lot of factors to think about when it goes to these different situations. Cool. Well, appreciate. Oh, we got a good question here. How do you guys keep your operators engaged with each other? Do you have centralized communication platform, weekly mastermind calls, mandatory meetings? Yeah, great question. So it's a constant thought. How do you keep, just for clarity, how do you keep franchise owners engaged with each other? Well, it's funny. Earlier, I said that when you invest in a franchise, you invest in a brand, systems, and people. I think what I left out is that the reality is you're investing in a tribe of people, right? Like the whole idea is that you can talk to other people that have been there, done that. They're in the same boat as you. They had that struggle, right? There are a bunch of people, a mastermind in one space, right? In restoration or in roofing or whatever your business is. I think that's 90% of what you're really buying into. Like that's so important. And so we make a huge push to do that a couple ways. One, we starts with onboarding. So during onboarding, we do our onboarding in there's one-to-one, but we do it in group settings. So throughout the 2-month onboarding experience, give or take, virtually before people come to training in Wisconsin, they're talking together as a group every week, right? Then they train together at Voda University for a week, 8 a.m. till the evenings, and then every night, either with us or on their own, they're going out to dinner, they're bowling, they're talking, and they're building camaraderie. I always think by the time they go to graduation on Friday, between those 2 months of onboarding virtually, the chats that they have, there's a Microsoft Teams chat with that onboarding class, the time in person in Wisconsin, by the time they do all that, they're leaving like a pledge class in a fraternity or sorority, right? So they graduate, they go back, and then we keep them together in the chat. There's a larger Voda chat, but in that kind of pledge class, fraternity, sorority chat for forever. And then also group post onboarding. And so this creates a tribe. Then they come into the larger Voda ecosystem, which is tribes of other people that we did that with, right? And so there's these kind of classes that have, think about a high school or a college. You have grades that are connected, and then the whole school's connected, and there's commonalities. And so we do that. Number 2, we host a call every Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. I don't know why more franchisors don't do it. It is not that hard. I thought at first it would be. We have different people on the team doing the calls. They happen every week. It doesn't mean that I'm on every call or anything, right? Or the leadership team. It's just there's someone hosting a call on a topic every Tuesday, every Wednesday, every Friday. Now, granted, some of the people are dedicated. They do it every week, but Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday calls. Tuesday is sales training. No, excuse me. Tuesday is for only owners and the founder of Voda and Jesslyn, our onboarding specialist, and it's positive power. So it's wins, losses, mindset. It's really more about tweaking your mindset, right? Because your business only goes as far as you mentally let it. Number 2 is, or Wednesdays is Sales Morning Mojo, which is available to everyone, technicians, business development reps, employees. That's important too, connecting the employees of the franchise to the corporate team as well. And then 3 is Fridays, which is an operational call. The whole system gets on there. Not mandatory, but a good amount of people do every Friday. We do a marketing huddle once a month, give or take. Obviously, franchise advisory councils on a quarterly basis, which is a meeting with our franchise advisory council. And then sporadic meetings here and there with other topics. Maybe I'm not traveling, I get fired up about something, I'll get on with the Z's. And then the conference. I would say between the conference and the regional We do regional events now too. But the conference is like where people make real friends, you know what I mean? And that carries in. I would argue all those things I just said, if you had none of it, but your franchise starts doing conferences, it could really create credibility. I think what I like about all the things I just said is you get to like a clear understanding of the problems in the franchise because there's so much like availability to feedback. So the conference is our biggest thing for recognition and let education and building camaraderie to keep everyone engaged with each other. Then there's a whole other thing to keep franchise owners engaged with us, but that's not the question. Good question. Well, thanks everyone for joining this. I thought it was great going through some things, going through some questions. I have some Steve, some Christian. If this was helpful, check out the candid report if you want to look at Voda. Check out the podcast if you want to learn about, franchise opportunities. Reach out directly if you're, looking at something and you want some advice. I also know lots of, if you're, not working with like a franchise consultant, we have great resources there that can match you to opportunities. I love helping people. I run Voda day to day, but that's not the point of this webinar. If you're looking to Voda, great, but it's not what we're here. We're here. We want to teach you about franchising, whether it's business ownership in home services, fitness, food, maybe not going in a franchise path. Oh, that's a good thing to end with. Not everyone's cut out to own a franchise. Some people are cut out not to own a business, and some people are cut out to do their own business. The biggest thing with a franchise is, are you okay with following a checklist? Doesn't mean everything. You're going to have your own ideas, but overall, you got to want to execute on things. But anyway, thanks for the time. Let's connect on LinkedIn. We'll do another one of these. Have a great holidays and New Year and Friday. And thanks again.
You're f***ing fired. If you want to say those words to your boss, make sure you head on over to ifiredmybosspodcast.com and fill out the form to schedule a no-cost consultation. And if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share with a friend who might also want to fire their boss.